So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over a practice paper that's made up from the AQA GCSE Higher Paper 2 calculator paper of 2022 revision list. Now there will be a copy of the questions in the description below for you either to look at or attempt before watching this video and going through the answers. So before we get started on some questions, let's just go over some of the topics over on the revision list that AQA have released. Now, an important thing to remember is that every sort of mock paper that you do is always going to be a predicted paper. We can never really include every single question possible in each of these topics, nor can we have questions that involve everything about topic. Now, what is going to be important is that you do understand each of these topics in detail. Now, as you can see, there is a long list of topics, and it's not necessarily that you're going to get a question on every single one of these topics. They may be merged together to combine the two. So for example, prime numbers, cube numbers could all be joined into like a multiple choice question, and same with triangle numbers. Turning points and completing the square are definitely two topics that are going to be linked, so expect those two questions to be included in one. So it is really important that, as well as going through the questions that we've included in this video that we go over and on the question sheet that you can download in the description, it doesn't include everything in the topic. And I strongly recommend that you either, if there is a topic on this list that you don't really understand, then please do some research either through revision guide or by clicking on one of the videos that's available on YouTube. And I will include links to all of these topics to videos that I've done that cover each of these. So getting started on this percentage question, question 1 says work out 50 as a percentage of 10. Now those multiple choice, it's always worth just writing down and showing some working out just to make sure that you are getting the correct answer. So for this one it's going to be 50 over 10, and then we multiply that by 100. Now you can do that on the calculator, or you can recognize that this is simply going to be 5. So it's going to be 5 times 100, which equals 500. So the correct answer is answer D. Now moving on to question 2, it says which are the two roots of x minus 7, x plus 2 equals 0? Well, for the first bracket to equal 0, x needs to equal 7. So let me just get out. So we've got x minus 7 equals 0, so x equals 7, so that's going to be D. And for x plus 2 to equal 0, we've got x plus 2 equals 0, so x equals minus 2, which is option B. Then moving on to question 3, it says match each sequence with its description. The first one has been done for us. So what you want to do here is obviously go for the ones that you know straight away. So in terms of the choices, we've got arithmetic progression, geometric progression, Fibonacci sequence, triangle numbers, cube numbers, and square numbers. Now square numbers already been taken, so the next one in terms of triangle numbers is going to be our second option. Then these set of numbers resemble the Fibonacci sequence. And then the next set of numbers, so 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, we can see the numbers are doubling, so that to me is a geometric progression. 1, 2, 3, 4 has all got a difference of 1, so that's going to be an arithmetic progression. And our last one, therefore, is going to be our cube numbers. Now again, you can join them with squiggly lines, or you can join them with straight lines. I think the marker would probably prefer straight lines, but if you went all sort of like a snake pit, then that'd be fine as well. So moving on to question 4, it says table shows information about population of a city. Work out the percentage population increase from 2001 to 2011. Give your answer to one decimal place. Now for the percentage population, now don't be confused by the population. Basically what this question is looking at is percentage increase or percentage change. So this is the difference divided by the original multiplied by 100. That's what you want to be typing into your calculator. So for this, we're going to work out the difference between 510,000 take away 430,000, all divided by the original. Now here the original is the 2001, so that's going to be 430,000, and then we're going to multiply that answer by 100. So then loading the calculator, we get Let's do the top one. So we've got 510123 minus 430123 over 430123, and then we multiply that by 100 and we get an answer of 18.6 to 1 decimal place. Here we get 18.6%, and that's to 1 dp. The next question then says the population increase from 2011 to 2021 is predicted to be 17.3%. In the table, write down the predicted population in 2021. So here we're going to have 510,000, and we're going to increase that by 17.3%. So that's going to be 100% plus 17.3. That as a decimal is 1.173. So if I get the calculator back, enter that in, and then multiply that by 1.173, I get an answer of 598230. So 598230. And moving on to question 5, it says here is some information about 30 trains leaving a station, and the question is asking us to work out the estimated mean number of the minutes in which it's late. So here they've already given us an indication about what we need to fill in our table. So the next thing we need to do is midpoint. So the midpoint is just the number between the two upper limit and the lower bound, the upper bound and the lower bound, I should say. So this is going to be 2.5. Now if you're ever unsure, just simply add the upper and lower bounds together and divide by 2. So that's going to be 7.5. That's going to be 12.5. Now for this one, although we don't know what the upper limit is going to be, the fact that it's 0 means we can we can ignore it, because we're going to multiply it by 0 anyway in terms of our fx value, which is what I'm wanting. So it's not really going to be a problem. So from this, if I then do my further addition, so I've got 9 plus 14 plus 7, which is 30. And then to create the fx values, I just simply multiply them out. And this is going to be 0 anyway. So 7 times 12.5 is 87.5. 14 times 7.5 is 105. And 9 times 2.5 is 22.5. So then if I add all those numbers up, so 22.5 plus 105 plus 87.5, I get 215. Now the estimated mean is the sum of fx over the sum of the frequency, so it's 215 over 30. Now I'm expecting an answer that's close to between 5 and 10, so let's see if that is the case, which it is. So I get 7.16 recurring, so it's about 7.2 to 1 decimal place. Then for question B, it says the station manager looked at the information in more detail using smaller class intervals to estimate the mean. How would this affect your estimate? Well, if you're using smaller class widths, then that's going to make it more accurate. So B is the option you need to highlight there. Question 6 then says, on 3 days, Ben throws darts at a target, as you do. Here are his results, and it says, and there are the results. It says, use Tuesday's results to estimate the probability of Ben hitting the target. So using Tuesday's results, so that's the set of results. So to work out the probability of him hitting the target, well, it's going to be 18 over 30, which we can then simplify as 9 over 15, which is 3 over 5. And again, if I just type that into my calculator, I probably would have simplified it straight away. Then moving on to B, it says use the total of the results to estimate the probability of Ben hitting the target. So here I need to use these numbers here. And so in total, Ben hit the target 84 times out of 120. And if I simply just type that into my calculator, it should simplify it for me as being 7 over 10. It then says which estimate would give the most reliable probability. So A from Tuesdays or B from the total. Well, the correct answer is going to be from the total. And the reason for that, which it doesn't really ask for, but I'm going to write it anyway, is because the more number of trials you do, the more accurate the results. And there you go. So the more number of trials you have, the more accurate your probability is going to equal. Moving on to question 7, it says here is an identity. Work out the values of A and B. So for this, both sides are algebraically equivalent to each other. So what we need to do first is expand the bracket. So if I expand the left-hand side, I get 4ax minus 10a. And that is identical to 24x plus 5b. Now what I need to now do here is compare the coefficients. So looking at the left-hand side, I've got 4a's worth of x's, and on the left-hand side, I've got 24. So those two things must be equal to each other. So 4a equals 24, so a equals 6. Then for the next one, if I look at the constants, I've got minus 10a on this side, and that should be equal to plus 5b. So minus 10a equals 5b. Now I know a equals 6, so this is going to be minus 60 equals 5b. So b then equals minus 12. And again, don't forget the negative signs because that does make a difference. So moving on to question 8, it says the cost of a ticket increases by 10% to £18.15. Work out the original cost. So this is a reverse percentage question. So here, if I'm increasing something by 10%, then I'm going to be starting with 100%. 100% plus 10% is 110. That as a decimal is 1.10. So I've got £18.15. Now, because I want to go in the opposite direction to find the original cost, I need to divide. So it's going to be £18.15 divided by 1.1, which gives me an answer of £16.50, which seems reasonable because obviously I'm expecting an answer that's lower than £18.15. Moving on to question 9, it says x is an integer. X is between minus 5 and 1 inclusive of 1. And x plus 3 is between 1 and 8 inclusive of 1. Work out the possible values of x. So for using this line here, then that the possible values it can be is minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0 and 1. Then looking at the second line here, now for this you want to be making sure that x is by itself in the middle, so you take away 3 from both sides. So what I've then got is minus 2x and 5. So from this, the possible numbers it can be is minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I need to highlight the numbers that appear in both the two lists. So I've got minus 2, minus 1, 0, and 1. So the numbers that it could possibly equal are going to be minus, oh, don't know why I'm writing a highlighter. So x equals minus 2, minus 1, 0, or 1. But if you did want to write it as an inequality, although it's not really asking for it, then I'm going to write my answer like that. Then moving on to question 10, it says Anne and Bill share an amount of money in the ratio of 7 to n and gets 28% of the money. Work out the value of n. So from this, we know that 7 parts equals 28%. So that means that 1 part is going to equal 4%. So from this, we know that n equals, and now if Anne gets 28%, then Bill equals 100% minus 28%, which is 72%. So then Bill's has 72%. I want to work out how many parts he's got. So 72 divided by 4 gives me an answer of 18. So n equals 18. Then moving on to question 11, it says work out the cube root of 1331 to the reciprocal of 0.2 rather. So here the cube root of 1331, which I can just stick straight into my calculator, is 11, and the reciprocal of 0.2, which is 1 over 0.2, which is 5. So here the ratio then is 11 to 5. Now I want the ratio of n to 1. So that means then I need to turn this first number into 1. So I divide by 11. So I'm going to divide that by 5 rather, because I want the second number to be 1. So that's going to be divided by 5. So I need to divide this number by 5. And that becomes 11 divided by 5, which is 2.2. And there is my final answer. Then looking at question 12, it says that a biased coin is thrown 250 times. So it's a relative frequency question. It says the relative frequency of heads is worked out after every 50 throws, which is the best estimate of the probability of heads. So as previously mentioned, the best and most accurate probability is when you are using the maximum number of trials. So it's going to be this probability here, which is 0.6, which is A. Moving on to question 13, it says that an isosceles triangle has a base of 56 millimeters and a perpendicular height of 45. Some of the triangles are used to make a large triangle. Work out the perimeter of the large triangle. Now for this, what we need to do is work out what the length of one of these slanted sides of the triangle is going to be. Now for this, although it may not seem obvious, is if I split this triangle in half, you can see that to work out the height, the slanted side rather, then I can get this triangle here. So this length here is 45. This length here is going to be half of 56, which is 25 plus 3, which is 28. So then from this, I can use Pythagoras to then work out what the slanted side is going to be. So x squared equals 45 squared plus 28 squared. So x squared equals, and again, just typing that all into my calculator, I get 2809. So x equals the square root of 2809, which gives me an answer of 53. So x equals 53, and it's millimeters. So then from this, I know that this is 53, that's 53, that's 53, that's 53, that's 53, and that's 53. So then the perimeter is going to be 6 lots of 53 plus 168. So if I type that all into my calculator, so 6 times 53, which is 318, plus 168, gives me an answer of 486 millimeters. Then moving on to question 14, it says that the graph shows how much Sam is paid for working up to 30 hours. He receives a basic rate of pay for the first 20 hours and then a higher rate for the next 10 hours. What is the basic rate of pay in pounds per hour? Now what this question is asking for is the gradient of the first bit. So I need to work out the gradient of this line here. There. Now the height of that is looking at being 120, and the base of that triangle is 20, so it's going to be 120 divided by 20, and that's going to give me an answer of 6. So he's getting paid £6 per hour. Then his higher rate of pay is then working out the gradient of this line here. Now, in terms of working out the difference, so what I need to do is kind of draw a triangle. So here the difference in pay is 120, and it goes all the way up to 220. So the difference is 100, and we're looking at 10 hours. So it's going to be 100 divided by 10, which is 10. So he's getting paid at a higher rate of £10 per hour. Moving on to question 15, it says the table shows how many books 5 members of a book club read last month. And it says, what is the range of the number of books read last month? So the range is basically the largest take away the smallest. So here the largest number is 14, the smallest number is 9, which gives us an answer of 5. Then says, what is the median number of books? So I just need to put those numbers in order. So I've got 5 people. So the smallest is 9, then it's 11, then it's 12, then it's 13, then it's 14. So the median is 12. Then for C, it says Mary is also a member of the book club. Her mean number of books she read last month by the members in the table and Mary's was 12.5. How many books did Mary read last month? So what this basic question is saying is that if we add up all of the number of books that those 5 people read, plus Mary's, which I'm just going to call M, we divide that by 6, that gives us an answer of 12.5. So simplifying all of this, if I do 12 plus 11 plus 13 plus 9 plus 14, I get 59. So M plus 59 divided by 6 equals 12.5. If I take the 6 over, I get M plus 59 equals 12.5 times 6, which is 75. And then 75 take away 59 gives me an answer of 16. So M equals 16. So Mary read 16 books. And good for her. Moving on to question 16, it says the mean mass of a squad of 19 rugby players is 87 kilograms. A player of mass of 102 joins a squad. Work out the mean mass of the squad now. So for this, what we need to do first is work out what the total number of kilograms those 19 rugby players had. So before, in the past, the total weight was 19 times 87, and again, if I type that into my calculator, so 19 times 87 gives us a total weight of 1653 kilograms. I then add 102 kilograms to that, which gives me a new total of 1755 kilograms. Now I want to work out the mean mass, so the mean with this new person is going to be 1755 divided by 20, which is 87.75 kilograms. Then moving on to question 17, it says Tim has X beans, Amy has 2 more beads than Tim, Sarah has 5 times as many beads as Amy. How many beads does Sarah have? Well, let's have a look at what this is going to be. So Tim has X, Amy has 2 more, so that's going to be X plus 2, and Sarah has 5 times as many beads as Amy, so that's going to be 5 lots of X plus 2. So the question then says, how many beads does Sarah have? And expanding the brackets gives us an answer of 5x plus 10. Then moving on to question 18, it says M equals P minus 2B over 2. P is 57.4 correct to 1 decimal place. B is 8.7 correct to 1 decimal place. Work out the upper bound for M. So in terms to get maximum of M as a fraction, I need the biggest numerator and I need the smallest denominator. So for this, the biggest is going to be, now for this I want B to be, the numerator to be as big as possible. Now for this to be as big as possible, P needs to be big and B needs to be small. So then what I've then got is, looking at the range, well for this, the upper lower bound is going to be 1 decimal place, so plus and minus 1/10. So it's going to be 57.35 to 57.45. And for B, it's going to be 8.65 to 8.75. So then the biggest P value is going to be this here, and the smallest B value is going to be this. So then here, the maximum M is going to be 57.45 minus 2 lots of 8.65, all divided by 2. And again, if I type that into my calculator, 57.45 minus 2 lots of 8.65, all divided by 2, it gives me an answer of 803 divided by 4, which is 20.075. And I can either leave my answer like this or write it as 20.1, and that's to 1 decimal place. The reason why I've rounded my answer up is because that's exactly the same rounding they've used in this question. Moving on to question 19, it says m equals 2 over 7 root x, which is the expression for m squared. So m squared is going to be 2, 7 over root x squared, which is 2 squared at the top, 7 squared, and then root x squared. So this becomes 7, this becomes 49, and that square root cancels with that x, leaving me with 4 over 49x, which is C. Then question 20 says work out the two roots of 5x plus 1. So again, very similar than the previous question. So here we make each bracket equal to 0. So that's going to be 5x is equal to -1. So x equals minus a fifth, which is B. And 3x minus 4 equals 0. So 3x equals 4. So x equals 4 over 3, which is C. Now moving on to question 21, it says that a solid shape is made by joining two cones. Each cone has the same radius. One cone has the slight height of 2 times the radius. The other cone has 3 times the radius. The total surface area of the shape is 135.2 pi, and the curved surface area of the cone is pi RL. And the question is asking us to work out the radius. So this length here is 2r, and this length here is 3r, and this length here is r. So looking at the total surface area, so if I call this A and this B, that the surface area for A, using this formula, is going to be pi times the radius, which is r, times the length, or the slanted length, which is 2r, giving me a total of 2r squared pi. Now the surface area for B is going to be equal to pi times r times 3r. That's going to be 3r squared pi. So the total surface area is going to be 3r squared pi plus 2r squared pi, which gives me a total of 5r squared pi. Now that is all equal to 135.2 pi. Now, as both sides have got pi, I can cancel those down. So what I've got is I've got 5r squared equals 135.2. So r squared, and then divide 135.2 divided by 5 rather, gives me 27.04. So r equals the square root of that. Now you might be tempted to write plus or minus, but because r is a length, it can't be negative. So the answer then is 5.2, and that's in centimeters. Moving on to question 22, it says the circle with center O passes through 4, 0. Complete the equation. So for this, we already know that the center is at 0, 0. So r is the radius. So it's r squared. So r equals 4. Then we've got x squared plus y squared equals 4 squared. So x squared plus y squared equals 16. And there is my final answer. Now, I'd either write it as this, you could possibly leave your answer as that, but I would say what's written in the box is probably going to be what they're after. Then for question 23, it says solids x and y are similar. X has a volume of 64, y has a volume of 729. The surface area of x is 108. Work out the surface area of y. So this is looking at similar area and volume. Now the information we know is the volume. So the volume scale factor, which represents k cubed, and again it could be any letter, I'm just going to call it k, is going to be 729 divided by 64. That's the volume scale factor. Now from this, I then can work out the length scale factor, which is k, by cube rooting each of those numbers. So 729 cubed is 9, and 64 cubed is 4. Now from this, what I can then do is work out the area scale factor by squaring the length scale factor. So that's going to be 9 squared and 4 squared, which is 81 over 16. So this is the scale factor I need. Now x and y, well, x is the smaller shape, so I'm going from small to big. So it's going to be 208 times 81 over 16, and 208 multiplied by 81 over 16 gives me an answer of 1053, and that's going to be in centimetre squared. Moving on to question 24, it says a tank is a cuboid measuring 50 centimetres by 35 centimetres by 20 centimetres. All lengths are to the nearest centimetre. The container to the capacity is exactly 35 litres. By working out the upper and lower bounds of the capacity of the tank, state clearly which of the following statements you would agree with. So let's have a look at this. So the tank max capacity is where all these lengths are going to be at their maximum. So it's going to be to nearest centimetre. So the biggest the 50 centimetre could be is going to be 50.5. It's 35.5 times 20.5. And if I type that all into my calculator, 50.5 times 35.5 times 20.5, I get an answer of 36751.375, and that's in centimetre cubed. I then need to convert that into litres. So if I divide that by 1000, I get 36.75 litres, and that's to 2 decimal place. Now the minimum capacity is where I look at the lower limits of each of these three numbers. So it's going to be 49.5 times 34.5 times 19.5. So 49.5 times 34.5 times 19.5, and that gives me 3301.125. And if I divide that, and that's in centimetre cubed, if I divide that by 1000, it'll give me the litre capacity, and that equals 33.30 litres, and that's to 2 decimal places. Now answering the question, so it says that the container is exactly 35 litres. So the tank can be greater. Well, yes, it can. The container could be greater, yes, and it's impossible to tell which has the greater capacity. So the correct answer you should have is going to be Z. Now the reason for that is because if the tank is at its max capacity, it's bigger than the container. If the tank is at its minimum capacity, it's going to be smaller than the container. So moving on to question 25, it says C, D and E are points on a circle. CE equals DE and tangent at D is shown. ACD and BC are straight lines, and prove that Y equals 4x. In your working, state the size of the following in terms of x with a valid reason next to each angle. So we've got angle DEC, angle DCE, and angle ACB. So let's do this bit first. So the reason why we've been told that it's tangent is because we can therefore use, as the radius is not used, it's going to be using the alternate segment theorem. So angle DE, or so I say DEC, is going to be equal to 6x, and the reason for that is because of the alternate segment theorem. So this angle here is 6x. Now in terms of angle DEC, so DEC, which is what I've done, so DCE, which is this angle here, and ACB, which is this angle here, well, this angle here is going to be 180 minus 6x divided by 2, because it's an isosceles triangle. So then that's going to be 90 minus 3x. So angle DCE is going to be equal to 90 minus 3x, and the reason for that is because we've got an isosceles triangle with the main angle being 6x, and angles inside a triangle add up to 180. So from this then we can then say that ACB is also going to be 90 minus 3x, and the reason for that is because it's an opposite angle to DCE. So there's our sort of proofs that we needed. So that's going to be 90 minus 3x. So then proving that y equals 4x, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this triangle here. Let's not do that. Let's highlight it properly. I'm going to take the triangle ABC. I know that all those angles need to add up to 180. So y plus 90 minus 3x plus 90 minus x all add up to 180. Now if I neaten the left hand side, I get y plus 180 minus 4x equals 180. The 180's then cancel, and if I take the minus 4x over to the other side, I end up with y equals 4x, which is what they wanted me to prove. Then moving on to question 26, which looks at functions. So here what I need to do is do the inverse function. So again, the general steps for this is you make the function equal to y, and then what we then want to do is make x the subject. So here I'm going to put brackets around the denominator and take it over to the other side, so I end up with y and then 2x minus 5 equals 3x plus 7. Expanding the brackets, I get 2xy minus 5y equals 3x plus 7. Taking the 3x over to this side and the 5y over to the other side, I end up with 2xy minus 3x equals 7 plus 5y. Now if I just take that up just to make a bit of space, now I'm going to factorize this left hand side, taking x out, so I've got 2y minus 3x equals 5y plus 7, and I've just jigged those two things around. Doesn't make a difference if you forget or don't need to. Actually I don't have an x in there, so that disappears. And then I can take this bracket over to the side by dividing, so x equals 5y plus 7 over 2y minus 3, and then from this I can then do the replacing. So the inverse function is 5x plus 7 over 2x minus 3, which is exactly in the format they want, and each of these values are a number that is less than 14. So far so good. Moving on to question 27, it says that f of x equals 2x over 7 minus 3, and the question is asking us to find the inverse function. So again, make the equation equal to y, and then we just want to make x the subject. So I've got y plus 3 equals 2x over 7. Take the 7 over, so I end up with 7y plus 21 equals 2x. Then divide everything by 2, so I get 7. Well, it's going to be 3.5y. Well, let's keep it as a fraction. So 7y plus 21 all divided by 2 equals x. Then my inverse function of x is going to equal 7x plus 21 over 2. Next question then says substitute 5 into this. So I've got 7 times 5 plus 21 divided by 2, so that's 35 plus 21 over 2, which is 56 over 2, which is going to be 28. And then for part C, we then need to substitute x equals minus 21 into f, so that's going to be 2 times minus 21 all divided by 7, take away 3. And again, if I type that into my calculator, 2 times minus 21 is minus 42, divided by 7 is minus 6, minus 3 gives me an answer of minus 9. And then finally, with the last question, it says P is a point on the circle with the equation of x squared plus y squared equals 90. P has an x ordinate of 3 and is below the x-axis. Work out the equation of the tangent. So we know that this point here is 3. So to find the y value, all I need to substitute x into the coordinate. So here what we've got then, so the y ordinate is 3 squared plus y squared equals 90. So y squared equals 91, so y equals plus or minus 9. Now because it's below the x-axis, it's got to see therefore be minus 9. So the coordinate of P is 3 minus 9. Now the next thing for me then to do is to find the actual gradient of the radius between those 2 points. So here the gradient of O to P, and which O is 0, 0. So here I've got the coordinates of minus 9 minus 0 over 3 minus 0, which gives me minus 3. Now this green line is perpendicular to that line, so that means that the gradient of the tangent is therefore going to be minus 1 over minus 3, which is a third. So m equals a third. X equals, and I'm going to use the coordinates of P, so that's going to be 3. Y is equal to minus 9. So then using y equals mx plus c, I've got that minus 9 equals 3 times a third plus c. And that then gives me minus 9 equals 1 plus c. So c equals minus 10. So then using those 2 bits of information, the equation of the tangent is therefore going to be y equals a third x minus 10. And there is my final answer and the end of this practice paper.